The Oklahoma Sooners wide receiver position is about to shock everyone in college football.
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Sooner Nation? Welcome to Locked On Sooners, and thank you for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there. Tune in and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. On today's show, we got a fan mailbag. We're going to discuss the running back rotations. We're going to discuss Oklahoma's offensive line and what game on the schedule would be the most forgivable loss. It's a really good question, actually. We're also going to talk running back, tight end, position breakdown. We're going to discuss the wide receiver group because it is pretty well stacked, and I think surprisingly so. He's Jay Smith of Unfair Sports. I'm John Williams of Sooners Wire at USA Today Sports. And again, thanks for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Jay, what are you making of all the buzz we're hearing about the wide receiver group? Because Emmett Jones went on record on Tuesday and called Keontes Lewis a CeeDee Lamb type player, and he called one Elijah Thomas, the true freshman wide receiver who's been getting rave reviews out of fall camp, a Malik Nabers, the former LSU Tiger. Great.
Yeah, he talked about them working out together or something, and so the talent obviously could be there. But no, we've raved about Elijah Thomas and how we know that he has the talent that supersedes the fact that he played at Chakota, Oklahoma, in a little town that not too many people know about. But the kid is ridiculously athletic. He is freakish. We saw that even on the tape. And so Emmett Jones really emphasizing that. It's a pretty big deal. But the Keontes Lewis comparisons to a CeeDee Lamb, and that is some massive praise because, look, CeeDee played as a freshman. He was nasty as a freshman on this team. And so if someone ever says to you that you have talent level like that, John, I caution just the thought of him being being that type of player, because CeeDee Lamb was ridiculously good. I mean, heck, just his highlights from playing against Texas is enough to show you just how ridiculously talented he is. Like, you just played it over and over. Now, that pisses off so many Texas fans when they see that, because it's so ridiculous that it's like, wait, y'all just cannot tackle the guy, and it's not even their fault. It really is who CeeDee Lamb is. So I like hearing that type of praise. I'm truly curious as we look at the breakdown what this rotation is going to be, because I really do think we've got 8 guys that could truly rotate this year.
Yeah, there's so many guys on this team that have been creating buzz for themselves all offseason. If you just run down the list, obviously Burks, Isaiah Sategna, Keontes Lewis, Elijah Thomas, Ivan Carrion's been creating buzz for himself, Zion Kearney, and then Javonnie Gibson back in the spring. I mean, Jacob Jordan. That's another one that I think gets lost in the shuffle a little bit because of Burks and Isaiah Sategna out of the slot. But it's a really good group, and it's a good group that's making plays during fall camp against what people believe to be a much improved secondary, and a secondary that will go out and battle. So that's encouraging, to say the least, that you've got guys that can create big plays after the catch, that can create big plays in one-on-one situations. You've got guys that can go over the top and can win. And that's without a guy like Javonnie Gibson, who's been out since hurting his leg back in the spring. You've had everybody else step up. It's like they saw Jaydn go down. They saw Jaydn not be available to return for fall camp, and Javonnie Gibson go down. And everybody said, say less, we got you. And everybody stepped up across the board. This wasn't like last year where you were just begging for somebody to step up and go make a play. You've got like 7 or 8 guys that are making plays in fall camp, and that's a really encouraging sign. And I think it leaves us a little bit unsure of who's going to start alongside of Deion Burks or Isaiah Sategna. If I had to project it out right now, I'm going with Keontes Lewis and Elijah Thomas on the outside with Deion Burks in the slot. And if they roll forward wide, Isaiah Sategna in the slot as well. I would not be surprised at all to see Elijah Thomas earn a start at wide receiver as a true freshman, because that dude has been getting crazy reviews from all over the place, from the coaches, from guys like Gabe and Teddy from the Oklahoma Breakdown. Everybody's just been talking about how good he's been and are surprised at how athletic and strong he is.
He's expected to be a household name by the time he leaves this campus because of the talent. But then you add in some of the others we're seeing, right? Like you mentioned, you got Javonnie and Jaydn Gibson. Now, we don't have a full-fledged, I guess, injury report on them. But if I'm correct, Emmett Jones mentioned that both of them are running on the sidelines. So if you're running or getting some jogs in, obviously with no braces on, by the way, they're not wearing any braces. So that tells you that they're getting closer and closer to being cleared for contact. So I do expect to see Javonnie probably closer to the Michigan game. I don't know if he'll take snaps in the Illinois State game. I would not be surprised if he got maybe 10 snaps in that game just to get himself some feel on being on the field and going against actual competition. But I think Michigan sounds like the fairest game to really try to expect him. And then Jaydn, I mean, he's going to be, like I said before, icing on the cake if he does show. For me, I really want to see where the lineups are going to be if you're going to be forced to put Deion Burks on the field with an Isaiah Sategna just because of Sategna's, talent. Keontes Lewis has been mentioned a lot as we're talking about Elijah Thomas. Where does Kearney fit in that? He's back out there at practice. I sense he's going to see some good time. The last set of propaganda that was put out by Oklahoma, you saw Josiah Martin and Manny Choice make some catches. So it's a lot of people that are being hyped up right now. We saw Jacob Jordan not only get a catch, but also a scholarship. It's like a lot of stuff has been going on around this room. There's so many storylines that can be created, John, that now we're all ready to see what comes to fruition, but man, we could theory craft all day long on how it's going to be set up. But I think the question I want to ask you is, how often do you expect, or how soon do you expect for Emmett Jones and Ben Arbuckles to roll out Deion Burks with Isaiah Sategna and a third wide receiver, and that be it?
I mean, first drive of the game.
I can see it. I could see it being Burks, Sategna, and then maybe either Keontes or Zion Kearney. But that's it. But even both of us were thinking that Sategna's your Burks in the slot as well, right? They both probably will play in that role, but it kind of feels like there's a good chance you throw Deion Burks on the outside or you throw Sategna on the outside.
And I think we'll probably see a lot of bunch formations with those two.
Oh, that'd be interesting.
And creating a pick your poison kind of a situation for coverages, because it'd be really hard to keep up with both of those guys coming out of a bunch, trying to figure out which way they're going to go. And the pick situations that you could create, the legal pick situations that you could create with those two, where, Deion is running the rub to the outside and Sategna is running the slant going in, or vice versa. Like, very fascinating options that Ben Arbuckle has with this wide receiver group. I think you can do so many different things with them, but traditionally, I don't know if Sategna is a guy that can play on the outside. I think we'll be curious to see that, but it wouldn't surprise me. And Deion Burks has the speed to be effective on the outside, and he's strong enough to be effective on the outside, that I think that could work. It just wouldn't surprise me to see either of those guys. It wouldn't surprise me at all to see a lineup of Keontes Lewis, Isaiah Sategna, Deion Burks as your starting three wide receivers, just given all the love that Isaiah Sategna has gotten as being the most consistent guy out there. I think that matters to the coaching staff. They want somebody that they can trust is going to do their job every single time they're on the field and not have questions about what they're supposed to be doing. That's what coaches want. They live for that. They live for consistent effort and consistent understanding of their responsibilities.
Yeah.
I remember back when I was in freshman football getting demoted because from the first team wide receiver group to the second team, because I didn't run my post route as fast as the wide receiver coach thought I should have ran it. And it was hard to recover from that.
That's a tough one.
Consistency matters. And so I think Isaiah Sategna will be a starter. I'll just be curious if it's in a 4-wide set or if they roll with him in a 3-wide set with Keontes Lewis. and Deion Burks. Because I think that Keontes Lewis and Deion Burks will be the other two starters, regardless of how they deploy that first group.
That makes sense.
Now, if they go two tight ends, I wouldn't know what to tell you at that point because there's no telling.
Let's talk about that in the next segment, then we'll figure it out.
Yeah, watch them go three tight ends, jumbo, and just mess with everybody because that's what's fun about college football. Let's talk running backs and tight ends. Another true freshman could really break into the rotation, and it would not be a shock to anybody. We'll discuss coming up next here on Locked On Sooners.
Guys, you've probably heard of Viagra or Cialis. Maybe you even tried them. But if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rougiette Ready. Rougiette Ready is a next-generation prescription treatment designed to amplify arousal in the brain and boost blood flow. Unlike the usual pills, they can take hours to work. Rougiette's 3-in-1 formula dissolves under your tongue and kicks in fast, on average in 15 minutes. Effects can last up to 36 hours, so you can stay confident and in control when the moment is right. So if traditional options haven't worked, Rougiette might be the answer because over 150,000 men have made the switch. And you can even read real customer reviews, like real ones on their site. It helps a lot. It's helping a lot of people feel more confident and present in their moment. So head over to Rougiette.com/lockedoncollege and use code LOCKEDONCollege to get 15% off today. That's RUGIET.com/lockedoncollege and use promo code LOCKEDONCollege for 15% off. Individual results may vary with prescription treatment. Compounded drugs are permitted to be prescribed under federal law, but not FDA approved and do not undergo FDA safety, effectiveness, or manufacturing reviews. Please visit Rougiette website for full safety info.
Once again, thanks for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there tuning in and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We talked wide receivers in the first segment. Now we're going to talk running back, tight end. And Jay, we know it's Jaydn Ott, first and foremost at tight end for the Oklahoma Sooners. The question we're going to have then is, beyond Jaydn Ott, is it Jovantae Barnes, or do we have another contender for those RB2 snaps?
Yeah, we're going to have a lot of competition there because Taylor Tatum and Xavier Robinson both spent a significant amount of time not practicing. So they're, they were dealing with like hamstring issues and other little nagging things too. And they set them down purposely. This is more of an NFL model when it comes to the way fall camp works, is their goal is to not continue to injure people more. But you're going to, because of how physical we play, you're going to deal with some of the typical bumps and bruises, which is an okay thing. It's actually a really good thing. But John, from there, all we've been hearing about is that boy, Tori Blaylock. The true freshman comes in at over 200 pounds at 5'11", roughly 6 feet tall, 203. That's a big boy as a true freshman to come in. I mean, he added 11 pounds, probably mainly muscle. So if we're hearing Tori Blaylock's name, do I think he jumps everybody else? Andy Bass is starting to run again and start to cut after tearing his ACL right before, what was that, Navy prep? So he basically had torn ACL for the second time, unfortunately, at the end of December. You've got a lot of options. Heck, and Gabe Sawchuk is still here. So it's obvious that, the Sawchuks did not want to leave, but, one of the Sawchuk brothers did stick around. It's definitely Jaydn Ott, especially with him getting up to 220. He's gotten his body at the size and still maintaining his speed. But, John, I don't know who's right behind him. Do you play Jovantae Barnes? Do you start to warm up Xavier Robinson and Taylor Tatum? Like, what direction can you truly go? Do you push to get Xavier Robinson and Taylor Tatum their red shirt back to where they can go ahead and play 3 more years? Like, what would be the smartest game plan there?
I think you have so many really intriguing options here because you're going to play Jaydn Ott a bunch. I think Jovantae Barnes is going to play a bunch, especially in, passing situations because he's a trusted, pass pro guy. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. He makes plays for you in that realm. Do you want to trust a true freshman in 3rd and long? Maybe not. Or an Xavier Robinson and Taylor Tatum? Maybe not. But given that you like all 3 of those guys, I could see a situation where it's like, hey, you know what? Tori, you get the first 4 games. Xavier, you're going to get the next 4 games. Taylor, you're getting the 4 games after that. And then we'll see what happens. That way you could play them as the 3rd running back, and each of those 4 sets, or depending on how you want to break it down or match it up, and not burn a red shirt on any of them. And save their eligibility for the future. Now, running back is one of those positions that if you're good enough to go to the league, a lot of times after 3 years, you're gone. So it's not going to be one of those where you're a lot of times playing as seniors, unless you just haven't had the production just yet, or you're like Jaydn Ott, you're coming off of an injury. So, I mean, that would be a creative way to solve a problem where maybe you've got too many good running backs and not enough, carries to divvy out. And we know DeMarco Murray has been quite creative with the way he's handled the running back room, sometimes to Oklahoma's detriment, maybe. But
I like how you said that.
Fascinating.
I like how you said that he's creative. I guess we'll ride with the words creative in that one, because everybody always is scratching their heads on what that means. But no, you're right. That is kind of, the thing. It's there's going to be some creativity there, but with Ott, he's gone after the year. Same thing with Jovantae Barnes. You kind of probably should, quote unquote, run them into the ground. Because I know there was a statistic I was floating around I saw recently that I thought was very intriguing, that after once you hit a certain number of carries in your career from college as well as NFL, that's when you start to see that decline at the running back position, mainly because it is a position that is just running into a wall over and over and over and over and over and over again. You just running through somebody's face. That's basically all you're doing as a running back. So yeah, it makes sense that you may want to preserve some of them, because it's funny, because when I think about it too, I think it was the running back, was it James Cook that got the contract with the Buffalo Bills. He's actually one of those running backs that are under dramatically the number of carries you need, the number of carries you would typically get, that would lead to you starting to hit that decline. It was mainly because at Georgia, they rotated a bunch of running backs, so he didn't have to carry the load by himself. I think Derrick Henry's probably the exception to that rule, but at the same time, it's Derrick Henry. Same thing with Adrian Peterson. They're just ridiculous specimens.
Yeah.
I guess you're kind of right. It probably is best to spread the carries out, because that's the thing scientifically has shown that if you limit some of your college, mileage, you typically last longer in NFL, and that's usually when you can get at least 1, maybe 2 big checks. And I think that probably should be the goal of these running backs.
Well, and who knows better than DeMarco Murray what
he was done dirty
workload can do to you, I should say. Because, I mean, Dallas, when he had the season where he led the league in rushing, he was the offense, and he got rode to a playoff berth and had carries in the playoffs. And the running game was the featured aspect of that offense. Even though they had Tony Romo and Dez Bryant and Jason Witten, he was not the same player after that. He had like one good year with Tennessee after, but he was not nearly the same player. And that's because he just had that huge workload. So I know people get frustrated with DeMarco Murray and the way that he rotates the running backs and divvies up the carries, but I think there's purpose in it. I think it's understanding, like, if these guys actually do make it to the league, he wants them to have some longevity. You mentioned Derrick Henry. He is absolutely the exception to the rule. Adrian Peterson, another one of those guys in the 21st century that can carry the load like they did and still have long, productive careers. But yeah, I mean, most everybody's going to a running back rotation because that's what helps these guys maintain their longevity. Let's get to the tight end position real quick. It's one of those situations where I don't know if we're going to have a clear answer on this. If anything, we know Carson Kent is a threat in the passing game, and we know that they love Jaren Kanak. And Brent Venables mentioned on his coach's show that Jaren Kanak is going to have a big year, that he's going to play a lot.
I expect 100% for Jaren Kanak to be on the field doing some very fun stuff there at tight end. Tight end is very intriguing because, of course, one, we don't really trust what's going on with tight end. I totally understand because we don't know. You brought in 3 transfer tight ends. And so you're really trying to figure out what John Locke, Will Huggins, or Carson Kent's going to actually give you. Now, they have the size you're hoping for, 252-ish, 247, basically roughly in the 250 range, on average. So they're about the size that you would hope for. I guess 249 would be the average between those 3. But from even there, Jaren Kanak is smaller, so you don't want to put him out there at tight end and expect him to block an actual edge. You want him to pick up a blitzing linebacker, which is probably the safest route, or have him a lead blocker as a fullback. But I'm ready to see how creative they're going to get in leveraging Jaydn Ott. He's an athlete. The dude ran a 10.3 100, so he's fast. Like, he's a blazer, and he did a really good job of being fast at linebacker. He's just, unfortunately, he was going very fast to a mistake. But hey, he always played at 100%. And I think that's going to be the interesting thing for me. I want to see if Caden Helms or Kate McIntyre are actually going to come out and give us something. McIntyre is at a redshirt sophomore. Helms is a redshirt junior. We haven't gotten anything from him, John. Are they going to get luck? Are the football guys going to bless them to have a healthy, at least last part of this camp and be able to give us something? So I really want to see if Caden Helms can give us that. He had the broken hand. Luckily, he's out there playing with a club. The question is how much pain he's dealing with. But man, if it seems weird, truth be told, I'm ready for Trinae Washington to go out there. That's what I am looking forward to.
Yeah, I mean, when you don't really have a clear-cut answer on who is going to be the guy, then play everybody and just see what gives you the best opportunity to have an effective offense with that position. I think the Jaydn Ott piece is the most intriguing because he could be that H-back that Oklahoma has had so much success with over the years, whether it's Jeremiah Hall or Trey Millard, Demetri Flowers. I mean, that's a position that Oklahoma has been very successful deploying. Jaydn Ott, not traditional tight end size, but could do a lot of damage for you as an H-back. How's the Oklahoma Sooners offensive line rotation going to be? What else are they going to do at running back? We discussed a little bit of that already. Got a few fan questions that we'll discuss coming up next here on Locked On Sooners. If you're running a business, every missed call is money left on the table. Think about the last time you needed a service. If the person didn't answer, did you wait? Probably not. You moved on. That's why you need Open Phone, so you never miss an opportunity to connect with your customers. Open Phone is the #1 business phone system designed to streamline and scale your customer communications. Do you juggle 2 phones just to keep business and personal calls separate? Open Phone solved that instantly. Your whole team can share one number and respond to customers like a shared inbox. No more, who's handling this? See why over 60,000 businesses trust Open Phone. They're offering Locked On listeners 20% off your first 6 months at openphone.com/lockedoncollege. That's openphone.com/lockedoncollege. They'll even port over your existing numbers for free. Open Phone, no missed calls, no missed customers.
This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, the daily fantasy platform that lets you turn your football predictions into real rewards. Preseason's already heating up, and college football isn't far behind. Whether you got your eye on the big name quarterback or breakout running backs, Prize Picks makes it easy to get in the game. Like for me, can't wait for these first week matchups in the NFL. Heck, college football is always something to pick. Iowa State playing Kansas State overseas. It's going to be a couple players in that one I'm going to get my hands on. Maybe like an Avery Johnson, because the way Prize Picks works is you pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. If you get your picks right, you could cash in and win up to 2,000 times your money. So I'm going to do that and definitely leverage the flex play option, which is a total game changer. Even when one of your picks misses, you still double up your money, which is the thing that makes me warm. So download the PrizePicks app today and use the code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's called Locked On College to get $50 in lineups after your first $5 play. PrizePicks, rule your game.
Once again, thanks for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there tuning in. Subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Got a few fan questions to go through on today's episode of Locked On Sooners. We put it out there. You responded with some great questions. And we're going to start with this one from @Jesse Cox video on YouTube. He says, if there's an inevitable loss along the way, and let me preface this by saying Jesse believes that every game is winnable. I just had so many characters in which I could fit the question. So if there's an inevitable loss along the way, which one would be the most forgivable in terms of playoff hopes, SEC standing, and national perception?
Most forgiving, I hate to say it, John. It's Texas. That will be the one that will be the most forgiving. Why? Because of where they're ranked right now. They're very high on the national people's minds. And if you make that a very close game, that could be one that could be leveraged on your side. Be like, hey, that was a toss-up. There's a chance Oklahoma could have won that game. And so because of that, that will be the one that will probably be the most forgiving out of all of them. In my personal opinion, it's got to be Texas.
If Texas is undefeated going into the Red River Showdown and still the number one team in the nation, I'll say yes. If Texas loses to Ohio State and Florida and is 3-2, like is the worst case scenario for Texas going into the Red River Showdown, I think it's still a forgivable loss if you lose it because it's a rivalry game and everybody knows it's a coin flip regardless of who the favorite and who the underdog is. I'm just not sure that it would be seen in the same light as losing on the road in Tuscaloosa to Alabama. Like if you lose on the road in Tuscaloosa, Bryant-Denny Stadium to Alabama, I think that one is also very forgivable because it's on the road in Tuscaloosa against Alabama.
Let me ask you this then, John. How far do you think Texas could potentially fall if they lose to Ohio State close and then lose to Florida close, as both of those are road games?
I mean, I think they'd still be a top 15 team. They'd be the best 3-win or 2-loss team in the nation probably still, just because, again, you're talking about Ohio State, the defending national champion, a team that's number 2 in the coaches poll, number 3 in the AP, and a Florida team that's probably top 15 in both spots or top 20 at least in both spots. So I don't think Texas would fall too far, but they would certainly not be considered the number 1 team in the nation at that point.
That's a fair point. I think that is very fair. And so that's the one thing I ask is, and why I throw them as the most forgivable, because I think that the media, with the perception of them and how high they are, they're going to find a way to try to keep them top 10. And there's a good chance that they can have 2 losses and they'll still be top 10 as Florida flies up. Hey, it all depends on how close those games are between them and Ohio State and them against Florida. If they're close losses, like a field goal or less, I expect them to be at no lower than 10. And then that could be a forgivable loss for Oklahoma if they loses it. Hopefully Oklahoma does not lose it. Hopefully they win it. But I think that's the one.
Well, I think for Oklahoma, they've got multiple forgivable losses on their schedule. Like they can go 10-2 and still make the playoff.
That's true.
A lot of people seem to think they can go 9-3 and still make the playoff. It depends on who those 3 losses are. If you're losing to Texas, who could be the number 1 team in the nation. If you lose to Alabama, who could be a top 5 team by the time Oklahoma plays them. If you lose on the road in South Carolina to a team with one of the hottest and most talked about quarterbacks in college football, okay, maybe that's 3 forgivable losses and you could be in the playoff discussion. If you lose to what could be an unranked Ole Miss team, maybe not. If you lose to Auburn, no, not forgivable. If you lose, I think even if you lose on the road to Tennessee, I think the committee would hold that against you because I don't think that they're going to be considered the same type of Tennessee team we've seen in recent years.
That's true. That's the thing that struggles for Tennessee is because of all of the turmoil or turnover on that offensive side of the ball and the questions that people have on them. I don't think their defense is going to be, I think their defense is going to be really good still. Even without James Pierce, it's just more so the offense is where most of my questions come for Tennessee, but I think you're right. I mean, that game would be, I know Auburn would be frowned upon regardless of how Auburn finishes this year. Nobody has belief in Hugh Freeze. I think that the Ole Miss game could potentially be frowned upon because it's at home. Same thing with Auburn. Those are home games.
And Missouri.
You should lose them. Same thing with Missouri. You shouldn't be losing those home games. So those are some bigger ones. Honestly, I think the only home game you would get forgiven is LSU. I don't even think the Michigan game will be considered a forgivable loss at home that early in the season because you're most likely going against a true freshman quarterback. Ain't no excuse to not win that game.
Yeah, I think you're right on point there. The LSU game to me is the only one that if you're going to forgive Oklahoma for losing a home game, that's the one that stands out. You got to beat Ole Miss at home. You got to beat Auburn at home. You got to beat Missouri. Got to beat Missouri at home. You cannot lose
back-to-back home games too. So yeah.
Okay, when I was talking with John Miller from Locked On Mizzou earlier this week, we discovered that the last time that Oklahoma lost at home to Missouri was 1966. That was also the last time they'd lost to Missouri in back-to-back seasons.
Perfect. Let's not repeat that. We're
not going to repeat history. We're not going to create history. All right, another question. This one comes from @Steve O'Rollo. He says, with the depth we have at O-line this year, do you guys think there will be a lot more rotation to keep guys healthy? If so, will that affect continuity across the line? He went on to discuss the communication and how chemistry is important with offensive line play. What do you think, Jay?
I think he's got a really good point. And I think he's pointing out some very critical things to keep in mind when it comes to offensive line, is that it's all about communication and chemistry, especially because you're trying to catch blitzes and all of that. You got to make sure that the guy next to you is doing what they're supposed to do. And playing on the right side is so much dramatically different than playing on the left. It's like writing left-handed to writing right-handed. And if you listen to any professional offensive linemen talk about it, just the way they talk is like it's two foreign languages. They're similar in ways. It's probably like British English and American English, right? It's same but different. Words mean different things for certain reasons. Like certain words you say there in the UK, you definitely can't say here on this program, even though it's not any type of bad word there. So yeah, it's kind of you probably understand, you're probably picking up what I'm putting down. But my point is there's a challenge in that. And I don't believe that the type of rotations we could potentially see out of Bill Beatonbow would actually hurt chemistry, mainly because a lot of these players have played together here in fall camp to help with some of that chemistry, and especially watching tape together. The question's going to be less about doing the rotations and more about if you're moving people into new positions, right? Like having a Jake Sexton play guard instead of playing tackle, having a Ryan Fogier move from guard to tackle or tackle to guard. I think those are the things that will be a lot more challenging for the chemistry of the offensive line, but having 10 dudes that you're willing to go play on a consistent basis, I don't think so. And I think that helps for your long-term viability in the system, because in order to make deep runs in the playoffs, the healthiest team is the one that typically wins.
Yeah, I think that they're going to settle on a 5 that they like the most, but then they're also going to throw out their Ryan Fogier and Michael Fasusi at times because they want to get their feet wet. They want to see, can they hold up against a Michigan? Can they hold up against Auburn? They want to see, they want to put these guys to the test and figure out what they need to continue to work on and get better at and develop. You only do that by playing, but they're going to want to have a core 5 guys that they deploy 95% of the time, especially in these big SEC games against Illinois State and Temple, Kent State. I could see them rotating a whole lot more, and you might even see them go 3 offensive lines deep into the rotation in those games, especially against Illinois State. Like they might play 15, 20 offensive linemen in that game, just because they'll have an opportunity to get these guys experience and get these guys some run. Against Michigan, probably not going to be as much the case. You're probably going to play 7, maybe 8 guys in that game. So communication is critical and it's key, and getting everybody on the same page is super important. So I don't think in some of the bigger games we'll see that rotation go too deep, but he will want to play some guys just to give them some snaps and see how they fare, especially the guys like Fasusi and Fogier, Logan Howland, Eddie Pierre-Louis, Jake Michela, like basically that second unit. He's going to want to see how they hold up at times against a good Michigan front.
Yeah, it's true. That's a very good point. The top 5, I do believe that the best 5 are the ones that's going to play, but I do feel like it's going to be more of a challenge of figuring out who that 5 is. So you ride with 10 and have your 5 best out there and have 5 more right behind them, ready to pull them out. I think that he'll probably sub them in groups, like both right guys gone at the same time and both left guys gone at the same time. If you can control it, that feels like probably the most viable solution, or the most realistic solution to playing a lot of offensive linemen.
Or they might just do a whole hockey line change at times and just run out a whole different group, because it is so much about connectivity. You have a feel with how to combo block and then when to release off of that block in the run game. Yep. You have a feel for how to pass, the stunts and the twists between one another. There's a very much a feel thing that comes with a, time spent with one another. Playing offensive lines like a marriage. It just gets better the more time you spend together. So I could totally see that. So great questions. Thank you all so much for submitting those. Again, you can submit them on Twitter at Locked On Sooners, on YouTube. We drop that graphic each week so that you can be a part of the show. We love making y'all a part of what we do here at Locked On Sooners because we do it not just for us. We love talking ball. We do it anyway, but we do it for you, the Locked On Sooners every day. So again, thanks for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there. Make sure you tune in to Jay's show at Unfair Sports. Go check out the channel at Unfair Sports over on YouTube. You can read my work covering the Sooners over at SoonersWire.com. The show is at Locked On Sooners on all of your favorite social media platforms. But until next time, he's Jay Smith. I'm John Williams. We'll talk to you then. Boomer.
Sooner. It's going to be a fun year.
Man, it's going to be so much fun. It's going to be so much more fun than last year.
Hurry.
It's going to rock.